What's up guys, Damian Keyes here. When I was 19 years old, I started supporting myself playing music. And I would play anywhere, anytime, for anyone. And I just felt privileged to be able to make money doing something that I absolutely loved. There was no politics, there was no social media judging me for my musical decisions. And I just felt like I had a privileged life playing music for money. But like any musician in that position, I wanted more. I wanted better opportunities, better gigs, and more money and more stability moving forward in my life. Being a musician is tough because you have no boss, you have no one to answer to. So therefore you live and die by the decisions that you make and how you spend your time. When I look back at my playing career and also my business career, there are certain habits that really changed my life and also pieces of advice that I will never forget. So today I want to talk about 5 habits that you can start today that can change your life. So what is a habit? A habit is a behavior that starts off as a choice but soon becomes an unconscious pattern. So in 1960 there was this doctor and he was called Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and he wrote a book called Cybersynetics. Is that right? Psycho-cybernetics. And in this book, he documented why it takes 21 days or longer in order to develop a habit. However, since then, it's become very clear that it could take from between 2 and 8 months to develop a habit. So this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. So 2 things. Number 1, you have to really want to do this. And number 2, they have to be simple. Otherwise, they get far too complicated and get left behind, and it feels more like a New Year's resolution that's died as a fart in the wind. So come with me on a journey as I delve into these 5 habits that changed my life. Habit number 1 is I paid a life coach for accountability. Now, whoa, I'm not expecting you to start paying your hard-earned money for a life coach, but I want to explain why I did it and what happened and how you can replicate that, ideally for free if you don't have the money. Now, this was several years ago and I just left and sold my shares in BIM, the music college. And I was a bit lost. I didn't really know what I was going to do next. I felt like I was in the wilderness. I had so much rolling around in my brain and I didn't feel I was focused. So I went looking on Google and I found myself a life coach. Now the reason for this was one word: accountability. So every month I would go, I would have a cup of tea and I would explain what I was doing, why I was doing it, and what was going to happen next. Effectively, I was holding myself accountable, because when you're a musician or when you're self-employed or you're your own boss, you don't have someone who you're accountable. You don't have that boss-like figure to tell you what to do. So the only person who can help you is yourself. And that's why talking to someone and helping you cut through this noise of what you want to achieve and how you're going to do it still comes from you, but it comes from someone who's holding you accountable. What I learned from going to a life coach, she very rarely gave me any advice. She just listened and she asked many questions. It was kind of like a form of A&R where she'd ask me questions. Do you think this? Or have you thought about that? Or how does that make you feel when you think about that? Would you like to do this more often? All of these questions that made me think, made me write ideas down, so I would leave that meeting feeling a lot more focused on what I needed to do over the next month. Now, I don't expect you to go and pay lots of money for a life coach, although it would be something I'd recommend. But if you can find the right person in your surroundings, a friend, a family member, possibly a friend of a friend, who you can touch base with them once a week or once a month and say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and have them hold you accountable, you will find over a few months, you'll start to see much better progression. Number 2, to force routine. Now, us musicians are creatives, and therefore we're not a massive fan of routine or structure or rules. Albert Einstein once famously said, if a cluttered desk is the sign of a cluttered mind, of what then is the sign of a clean desk? Effectively, what have you got going on in your brain? Because if it's that clean, how are you going to delve into this creativity? And I know personally, I like a bit of chaos. I like that creative chaos, but I do need structure. I do need to have some rules or restrictions that stop me from creating for the sake of creativity and not achieving because I'm pandering to my own ego. Now, the way I do this is by apps on my phone. So I use Time Tree Calendar, but I've used Google Calendar, and there's millions of productivity apps on your phone or on desktop. Now, what I tend to do is I track my time to as close as I possibly get within at least half an hour. I want to know what I'm going to be doing that day and that week. I'm not trying to stop or stifle creativity. In fact, the opposite. I'm trying to enhance the creativity. Because if I can track my entire day, I know what frame of mind I need to be in. I know that I've set out what I will be doing. Now, it's really important for me when I do this to not stick to the headlines. So for example, if I put in make a video, that's fantastic. But when it comes to making a video, have I prepared the video? Have I got everything I need? It takes me 3 or 4 hours to prepare this, believe it or not. So if I don't factor that in to the time, I'm not going to be able to make a video, and therefore I've broken the day. So I'm trying to put the preparation time, travel time, anything that I can think of for my week to keep it as successful and achieving as possible. The other thing I'll make sure is that I have reminders pop up. In fact, I will use the reminders app on my phone to just pop up and just keep me in touch with what I should be doing and what I need to achieve off my to-do list every single day. One of the things we are taught as musicians and creatives, especially in this time of YouTube and social media, is we need to set these colossal, massive goals, otherwise we're failures. But if we're not tracking what we're doing and we're not seeing the progression, that is when anxiety kicks in, and from there, it's just a losing battle. To avoid anxiety and also the guilt of not doing or not achieving, it helps to break things down so we can see what we're doing step by step, day by day. Tip number 3, I write down my daily goals every single day. Now, I'm the first person to arrive at my office. I get there at 7:30, which always gives me at least 1 hour before anyone else arrives. Now, that is my thinking time, and I think it's so important to have thinking time. In this hour, or sometimes 2 hours, I've got time to think, to plan, to write down stuff, to empty my brain. But one of the things I always do in that first hour whilst I'm getting myself together is to write down my long-term goals. Not my to-do list, my long-term goals. What is it that I'm working towards? Why am I doing this? That big question of why. Why am I doing all of this work? What am I trying to achieve long-term? Now, for me, that might be numbers, it might be subscribers, or it might be a financial goal. But for me, it's also building the business and putting more structure in place so that I can take myself out of it, because I want to spend more time doing more fun things. I want to start every day with one question, which is, if I want to achieve these things, what do I need to do to achieve them? Or am I doing the right things to achieve them? Am I doing the right things in the right time scale to achieve them? Because if I'm reverse engineering, if I'm starting from the end, I know that what I'm doing on a daily basis is either working towards them or it's not. And it doesn't matter whether these large goals are the same things that you write down every single day. In fact, I would recommend that. Whether with your band you want to go on tour of the world or play a stadium or tour with a certain band, you write that down and you have a couple of these big goals, because it refreshes your memory and focuses you every single day. So when you have something to do every day, you think to yourself, hang on a minute, is this going to help me do this? If it's not, this goes, because this is your goal. Number 4, I minimize my priorities. Now, we all know that a to-do list is very important, but is that to-do list a good priority for you achieving your goals? So when I was 19 years old, I started as a bass tutor for the music college ACM. And they asked me to build the part-time school. So I became a manager of one of the schools at the college. And the guy who owned the entire college gave me one of the best pieces of advice that I have ever had. I was running around like a blue-ass fly, and he said, wow, the way you work is so frantic. And I was like, I've got so much to do. There's so many things I need to do. And he sat me down and he just said, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. That is, only spend time doing the most important things. Now, at the time I was like, well, that sounds really obvious, but it's something I live by every single day. I will write a to-do list, and once I've got my to-do list, then I will prioritize it. And the way I do that is very simple. What can I delegate to somebody else, and what can I just completely wipe off that to-do list? What is not important enough for me to take the time to do it? So I'll delegate, and then I'll just go, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not important enough for my time right now. And that way it will prioritize my to-do list. And from there, I will schedule in the most important things. And number 5, investing back into your career. Now, you don't know what is around the corner. It could be illness, you're a musician, it could be tendinitis, it could be financial struggles, it could be other members of a band, it could be the recession if you're in business. You are not in control of other people or the market, but you are in control of how employable you are, and you are in control of your investments and how you are bringing in more money and opportunities in the future. When I sold BIM, it was 2010. We'd just gone through a major recession. So I had a bulk of money that I needed to invest, and having never really invested money, I went looking for financial advisors, and everybody was telling me, invest in property, invest in property. But I'd seen a lot of my friends who'd been burned by investing in properties and then hitting this recession. And a guy who's a very wealthy friend of mine gave me a great piece of advice, and he said, you have to diversify your portfolio. In other words, you have to spread the risk of the things that you invest in. Now, I'm not saying to you guys you need to invest financially in property or even invest financially in anything. When you're investing, it can be money, but it can be your time, it can be your mental energy. But investing in your career at every given turn is so crucial. This means not putting all of your eggs in one basket. So for example, whether you're a guitarist and you go and buy a decent bass and a decent bass amp so that you can take on some extra gigs should you want to. Whether you're a musician and you want to learn to play keyboards or guitar to help with your songwriting. Whether you're a bass player or a drummer and you're getting singing lessons so that you can also do BVs and you're making yourself more employable. All of these things are still investing. The way that you self-improve, and also when it comes to money, investing in gear, investing in your education, investing in things like a life coach or a mentor, all of these things make a huge difference because you are investing in your future. The question is, how are you going to be stronger next year than you are this year? What are you going to invest your time, your effort, your creativity, but also a certain aspect of money that you are bringing in from what you're doing now to make yourself stronger and better, more employable and safer in the future? This continual investment is crucial if you want to develop a career which spans over 20 or 30 or 40 years. So thanks for watching, guys. What I would like to hear from you is, what is the best piece of advice for your music career that you have ever been given? Because I'm loving this stuff. So if you can leave a comment below, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? But thanks for watching. If you can do me a favor, like, subscribe. More importantly, just come and be a part of this community. Leave a comment. I'm so proud of reading all the comments and seeing what you guys are up to. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.